Hello, everyone. Today we have a very special guest on the show. He is a stunt performer and actor who has been featured in some of the biggest blockbusters. And he's back on the show today to catch up and talk about his latest projects. Enjoy. It's been a long time since we last talked. Last time I had you on the show, you were in a little up and coming movie called Mortal Kombat. So that's back in 2021 as Cabal. And now we have Mortal Kombat 2 releasing here. And I know you have some stunt work and things like that you're doing in this film. Without spoiling anything, is there anything you could tell us about, like what roles or stunt work you've worked on in this new movie?
Yeah, I was just brought on as a sort of a background stuntman. Continue to work with that stunt team after Mortal Kombat 1. So that stunt team would get me in on their films, and Shao Kahn required a second double, so I did a little bit of stunt doubling for Shao Kahn. But he had a main double, Ben Seamer, and Ben did a great job. So I don't want to take anything away from what Ben did. But yeah, I just got to get on and get in the prosthetics for Shao Kahn.
There's a big, as far as what I've talked to with different stunt performers, is there's a big difference between, okay, we're going to do a stunt performance here in the scene and stunt doubling. Can you kind of go into the different aspects, how you would approach stunt doubling differently than you would just a stunt performance, so to speak?
Yeah, I guess as some stunt performer, you're playing your own character, so you'll be a background. Let's say for Mortal Kombat, you might be a Denian villager or a guard or something, and you might have to fight. So that you're hired as a professional who can fill that spot. As a stunt double, it's the job is very similar. You're just doing the stunts for the actor, so you're still employed by the same people. It's still physical. It's like for me, I don't see it as any more of a I don't see it as any better than being a stunt performer. I prefer, to be honest, to be a stunt performer over a double because I get to be myself. I don't have to try and hide my face or try too hard to replicate an actor's movements. And saying that, you can have some great fun as a stunt double as well. So yeah, a double, you're assisting the actor in his movements and making the movie, and you're really as a good double, you want to help the actor do as much as they can themselves and assist them and show them the movement, and then yeah, as a performer, you don't have to worry about any of that. You just go on and do your thing, and yeah, just try and take direction.
You know, it's interesting too because I remember last time we talked that you kind of went into how you even got into stunt work. Can you go into that a little bit of the story of that, because I think it's kind of a sweet how it just you kind of started off doing some let's just say some Thor work, and you kind of came almost like full circle with that. Can you kind of go into the people watching how you got into stunt performing and things like that?
Yeah, you're probably referring to the superhero work I was doing at a theme park. So not Thor, I was Batman. It was a Warner Brothers theme park, so we have all the licensing to DC characters. So yeah, I was a young 22 year old trying to be an actor, doing extra work, and I had a friend tell me about a job opening at a theme park, and I was like, you know what? That sounds fun. It's better than waiting tables, which is what I was doing at the time. So went into the audition with no stunt experience or martial art experience. I guess I fit the costume well compared to the other people at the audition, and they said, you know what, you're showing you can follow direction with the what we're trying to teach you. Here's the job. I did that for 4 years. Within those 4 years, I got qualified as a stuntman to work in film. So in Australia, you need to have a qualification through our union, kind of like a SAG card in a way, which they do in America. But there's a few more hoops you got to jump through and prove that you're proficient. So did that, and then it's just a trickle from there. You don't just get handed on a silver platter. You start, and my first year as a stuntman, I did 2 days on set. And my second year, I got 9 days on Pirates of the Caribbean 5. Um, then I went off and did in theme parks in Singapore, Universal Studios, the Waterworld stunt show. I thought that would be a great opportunity, go experience a different culture and came back from Singapore, and then from there it kind of really ramped up, and I started to get more consistent work, and the roles were bigger, and I had more responsibility, and yeah, that was sort of what how it happened. Yeah, theme parks though is a great way to get in.
Yeah, I mean, who would have guessed? I mean, it's such an interesting concept too, and it is interesting seeing different people how they get into the business. Right, there's a lot of people who have like this fight background or a gymnastics background or even dancing. Right, because it is choreography at the end of the day. I hear that's a really interesting segue into it. But yeah, a lot of it too. Like I imagine project to project, you're kind of building this rapport with the people you're creating this with, and like when you're making, for example, a Mortal Kombat 2 that's coming out, is there anything going into that where, um, as far as like any like crazy behind the scenes things leading up to it? Because I know you guys have to choreograph everything to a T, and I do know talking to enough stunt performers, like, hey, if we're about to do this crazy stunt, and you're not feeling 100% like ready to go, don't go yet. So can you go into the coordination process and what that kind of, just in general, what that dynamic's like as far as doing your job, so to speak? It's more than just showing up, you know.
Yeah, look, hopefully you have ample time to rehearse whatever it is the stunt you have to do, and on a job like Mortal Kombat 2, you will have the rehearsals, and you get to set, and you know that you can do the gag, and then there's obviously a few more butterflies because you've got a whole crew watching, and you have to perform something. So you got that to deal with too. But for me, I find that that pressure actually helps my performance, and it makes me really hone in and focus. It's kind of, yeah, it's like the butterflies give you a little bit of something. I guess it's that adrenaline, right? It makes you focus, and when you have to. So yeah, you wouldn't be given, say, a stunt on the day that you haven't had preparation for on a job that scale. On the smaller jobs where they might have as big of a rehearsal budget, you might find out on the day, oh, you're doing a high fall, and can you do it? And then you'll be like, you know what, maybe someone else can do that. I'll run around here in the background and fall over. Yeah. So you do have a little bit of responsibility to be accountable for your, I guess, your skill level, and don't put your hand up if you can't do something. Yeah.
I mean, you also have fight choreographer experience. Like, how do you like to approach? I mean, obviously you got this the script and you got whatever's required for shot lists or whatnot. But how do you approach? Or how do you like to approach just the fight choreography side of things, and obviously keeping your visually storytelling here too. This is, you don't want to just throw just a bunch of action shots. It has to tell the story. So can you kind of explain how you would take on when you do fight choreography setup?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. You don't just want to throw a bunch of moves together and go, "Hey, look, this was fancy. What do you think?" Because if it doesn't have a reason for doing it, and you can't tell the audience that reason for doing it, no one really cares. In my opinion, I like to find the heart within the choreography. Ideally, you can get the script and go, okay, learn a bit about the characters. Where are they? Are they in a bar? Are they in a jungle? What can we use around us? If you can't use the environment for a fight scene, you're kind of cheating yourself of a little bit of story. So yeah, for me, it's just trying to get a hold of that script, trying to go through it, work out the character points. How does this person move? Um, I I don't love the flashy moves, to be honest. I'd prefer to try and tell it through story. Yeah, I just find sometimes if you're trying to do things too difficult, it can hold you up, and you can get stuck on these things. But if you can find something achievable, still fun, and maybe make it look more dynamic with camera, you can still get a same feeling from the audience and take them on that ride. But choreography for me is a new thing. I've only had a couple of professional credits as a choreographer, but it's just that next progression. Once you start to move on in your stunt career, you want to look at, where am I going to go with this? Am I going to go into rigging, head rigger, stunt coordinator, assistant coordinator, um, fight choreography, safety, whatever you choose. So for me, choreography is the way I want to go, because I find it it's more of a creative outlet.
Yeah, it really is. There's so much more that goes into it than, like I said, just throw a bunch of kicks or whatnot. And the storytelling, I like how you hit the nail on the head there too with, uh, what the environment is or the location or the set. Like if they're in a bar, that should be incorporated, or it's a lot that goes into, and the creativity of going into that. And is that another thing too? Just that brotherhood and sisterhood, like that kind of family environment, so to speak, with fight choreography and stunt performing, where people are just brainstorming of, let's say you're not for fight choreographing it, you're following someone else's lead, but there's also people are kind of open to a degree to, hey, I have this idea here or whatnot. The camaraderie back and forth, that dynamic.
I think so. Like, I think every choreographer would like to think that that's how they are, and for me myself, I want to be an open book and take in people's suggestions. Sometimes there's too many suggestions, and or silly suggestions, and you kind of got to hit the nail on the head a little bit and go, okay, hang on, I've already got this planned out, and just let me sort of explain what's happening, and or they'll throw in a suggestion. It's like, well, that's just not possible. Where are we going to get an axe from? There's no axe in the scene. Like, just so there is a bit of that, but when there is that collaboration, and for me, like when I'm performing and I'm not choreographing, being heard is it's a much better experience when you can feel like you can offer something up and it's going to be listened to and considered. So moving forward, I'd love to come across as that sort of choreographer. But sometimes you're in the heat of the moment too, and it can be stressful, and sometimes the outside noise can distract you. So I definitely understand that side of it too with people I've worked with that might be like that, or even myself. I'm sure I've turned around to some people going, nope, nope, just shush, shush. I've got this planned. Like, let's just keep on track, okay? So yeah, yes. You get all spectrums of people that are in those positions, and some love ideas coming through, and some don't, and you just got to read the room with your I guess your boss in that situation.
And, and also since we last talked, you're in one of my favorite, I guess you would say, new movie branches to a franchise, and that's Predator Badlands. It's interesting what they're doing with that segment of the franchise. Is there anything with Predator Badlands that you can kind of go into?
Predator was an interesting job. So I went over there, and my job changed a bit since I was going to double an actor, and then as I got there, I sort of learned that that actor's action had all but been stripped away, and they sort of said, okay, here's this acting role. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's cool. So I had this acting role as a synth officer, and then they sort of went a different way in the story and kind of made it all the synth universal, where it was just one synth that was played by a friend of mine, Cameron Brown, who did a good job. So ultimately, my body became Cameron, and his face was slapped on me. And it's all good. Dan Trachtenberg actually emailed me before the movie released and said, "Hey, mate, just wanted to let you know we've gone a different way, and the synths are all one, and you were sort of you're not in the movie anymore." And if it was my first movie, I would have been heartbroken and gone, "What how does this happen?" and maybe given up. But this happens in the film industry. You can, I spent 5 weeks in New Zealand on that job, and ultimately have nothing to show for it. But I got paid, so that's good. But the experience was cool. There's a great stunt team. The Kiwi guys, they do a good job. I liked working with the choreographer Vincent Boyan, he was the John Wick double in the recent John Wick. So that was a real highlight, and he was a great guy to work under, to learn from him and his movement. Very dedicated man. So as for the story, I don't know any more than what you guys kind of have seen within the film itself. That they don't go into too much detail about where they're planning and going with the films.
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because I know a lot in this industry. You go into it thinking like kind of one thing or one way, and then all of a sudden things could switch up overnight. And I think that is the correct and even mature way to look at the industry, whatever part of the industry you're in. Right? Is it's better to be okay, small or somewhat unseen part of a bigger picture than the main guy in something that's never seen. So I think, I mean, what as far as inspiring words, what's that's a good outlook to have, isn't it?
Yeah, I always tell people try to enjoy the experience of filming and not think about too much about the end result, because you could go watch the end result and not see yourself in the movie, or just see your shoulder or your elbow, or your blur in the background. So you just really got to enjoy making the film, and if you can learn to do that, you're going to be happy no matter what. You might go come watch the movie and go, "Oh, I wasn't in it," but oh well, I got three more movies coming out. Hopefully, I'm in one of those. um, so you gotta separate yourself a little bit, and it's really hard to do when you're new and you see the bright lights and you want to take your mum and dad to the cinema and go, well, here I am, here I am. Oh no, I was meant to be there and I wasn't, and um, but it's just the way it is. You have no control over what they decide to go with in the edit, and they generally shoot more than they need to, or they can change things completely by doing reshoots, which has happened to me a couple of times. So whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's words to live by too. I mean, I know I talk to a lot of people, whether they're like a writer or actor or whatnot, and it's just kind of like, man, you should be really excited about this. Like, yeah, we'll see.
Totally. Yeah. That's like if I get offered a job, my wife's like, "Are you excited?" I'm like, "Oh, look, I'll be excited when I'm on set eating crafties and I'm in costume. I won't get excited until then because things can get taken away so easily without a thought, and it can be crushing. So if you can just, I guess, have a little bit of a shield up until you're there in costume, and you go, okay, I'm here. I'm in costume. I'm with my friends. I know I'm going to get paid. Then you can sort of have that little celebration. So it's hard to celebrate too early, I think, or maybe it's wise not to celebrate too early.
It's tough too because growing up and living your whole young adult life and everything too, you're kind of you work at something, you expect a certain thing at the end. It's just such an interesting industry. It can fluctuate. I was watching a TV show that I think is really really well done, and that's Young Rock, and I go, the honky tonk man. That's Daniel. I know that guy. How'd you get into that, and what was it like? I mean, you get speaking role, you get to say some dialogue and be in that. It's a great show, man.
Thanks. Yeah, that was just through my agent. So I've had a fair few acting roles in films, and that was, I think, the only job I've ever had that's come from an audition through my agent. All the other ones came through like being a stunt man, the stunt coordinator, going, "Hey, there's this role, we want to cast a stuntie. Can you just send in the self tape? You're up against two other guys and see how you go." But so that was the first time I auditioned. Well, not first time I auditioned, but first time I received a role from an audition, a TV show or movie that wasn't a commercial. Um, so yeah, just through my agent, and it was nice to like finally get your face on screen and say some words. I was meant to have a wrestling fight to the following day of filming, but I got tested positive for COVID that night and got told that I couldn't come into work. So someone else filled my spot, some other wrestler, and so the Honky Tonk Man never got seen to wrestle. Would have been cool to do a bit, but yeah, that was real disappointing to not be able to wrestle. But
Man,
there was another. I was working with Todd Garner on a show last year. It was quite funny because he was the one of the producers on Mortal Kombat, and when we saw each other on a set, we're like, "Hey, how are we?" And then I got some lines on that movie too. That was a movie called Runner. It's just trailers came out recently with Alan Ritchson and Owen Wilson. So we had a few laughs that I got to speak on camera, and my voice wasn't dubbed over by someone else.
I know, right? Even Cabal, it's like, okay, I wear a mask. No, we're gonna dub it, and
Yeah, yeah, it's just like okay, and it's kind of frustrating sometimes when people think Cabal, oh, Damon Harriman. I spent 2 months in that costume on set, and he probably spent 2 hours in the recording studio, and that's who people gravitate towards. And I'm like, it's just the way it is. But it can be a bit frustrating. Damon did a great job, and he's Quan Chi, obviously, and the new MK2. But you know, when you spend, I guess, sweat and tears and bruises in costume, and
Yeah.
then someone else takes all the credit. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess that's the industry for you.
It's crazy. That's the other thing too. Like, have you seen the finished product of Mortal Kombat 2 yet? Or
I haven't. No, they've got a premiere tonight in my hometown, but I haven't been invited. So,
oh,
um, yeah, so I'll go see it with my friends at some point at the cinema.
but that's interesting. Like the other films you've been in, like last time we talked was Mortal Kombat 1, and we talked about U.S. Cabal. You sometimes you don't know when you're in the middle of something. Sometimes you could be the writer, director, and everything. And you don't really know until like music and the VFX and everything's done. And even then you don't really know until audience interact with it. So what is that? I guess from your perspective, because I just actually since we last talked, I got into. I'm a professional filmmaker now.
Nice.
And I do documentaries. I just finished my first short film narrative, and it's an interesting process. I know you had wrote, and directed a Gray Mare back in it was like 2016 or whatnot.
Yeah.
First of all, what was your experience like putting pen to paper and then filming it and then seeing that final product compared to something like Mortal Kombat? Well, right now at this point in the recording, we can see Mortal Kombat 1 because you saw that. But like, what does that seeing it from beginning, middle to end experience feel like for you?
I guess when it's your own film and it's a short film, you have complete control the whole time and you see the whole process. Whereas, yeah, you leave a lot on the day you perform and go, well, I hope they don't butcher that in the edit, and you'll see it 2 years later on the big screen and go, oh, okay, no, that was all right. And you kind of have forgotten a lot about what had happened on the day. Whereas, when it's a short film or your film, you have complete control. And since Grey Mare, I've made a bunch of short films. I just don't throw them on IMDb like I
Okay.
used to. But during the writer's strike, we had no films happening, so I really took that opportunity to just make some films. I think I shot about 11 short films in the 1 year. Two of which were actually like quite bigger. They were sort of around the 10-minute mark, where the other ones were more like 2 minute sort of fight films. But one of them did really well on YouTube. I think it got 80,000 views. It was a sort of a zombie apocalypse one, and it's just surprising. I was just like, yeah, we'll make this. We just had an idea. I'm like, let's film in some cool locations and some cool Corey and action, and I just throw it on YouTube and just I'll see if people gravitate towards this. Um, and they did. It got a bunch of views, and I was really surprised because another one I did was I'm a big fan of the Grey Man book series by Mark Greaney, so I made a short film based off quite a heavy part of that first book. It's not really in the film. If you've only seen the film, you'll watch this short film and go, oh, this feels like a different movie. Whereas the books read a
Huh.
little different to the Hollywood films. And so I guess where I was going with this is I made just a zombie film that had nothing to do with anything, and it got 80,000 views, and then I go, oh, well, there's this IP that I really enjoy. I'm gonna make this film, and it kind of got like 2,000 views on YouTube. And I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? Like something's already got a fan base, and you struggle to get the views, whereas you make something. I guess people like zombies. Maybe that's the answer.
Long story short,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, because right, there's that really three as far as the script, so to speak, right? There's the script, and then there's the shooting of the script. You can just manipulate that, especially if it's like ad libbing or something like a comedy, or something, or even a horror piece. But and then there's the editing, right? That's a whole
Yeah.
different shebang, and it's like the script, second phase of the script, really, and then that final phase of the editing. Especially, right? How do you feel when you get like sound design and the music, the sound effects?
Yeah,
It totally
totally,
changes it.
totally. Brings it to life. And I think another big thing you missed was like the pre-production stage. Where I find that's kind of the most important because for me, I'm planning so much and arranging people and making sure we have costumes and props and lights. And I like to work with a pretty small crew. Like I'll have a cameraman and I'll get like actors who aren't on camera at the time just to hold up LED lights, because I do a lot of guerrilla filming. Just go into town and shoot in an alleyway. Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. So you don't want a crew of 10 people there. So you've got to make sure you plan everything, and I storyboard everything. I'm quite a handy artist, so it's quite easy for me to put down what I'm thinking in my head onto paper, and then when I'm on the night, I can just refer to these storyboards and go, "Oh yeah, I know what the next shot is," and that's why you can get churned through um, a lot of footage, I guess, and shots in, say, the space of 3 hours, because you're only shooting maybe 6 till 9, and people have day jobs the next day and they can't stay till midnight. So
Yeah.
yeah, pre-planning is such a big part of it if you're going into indie filmmaking.
Huge. I mean, yeah, huge. And even just the pre planning and pre viz going into your fight choreography, stunt work. It's massive. I mean, you see, I think more and more common now with like the behind the scenes on DVDs, and now they do it digitally and even put on YouTube. I think people are just as interested watching that nowadays. By the way, just the previs going into each of these films, and that's your area to be, I guess, be more experimental and creative too. Like, okay, yeah, we got this fight sequence. Where can we push this? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to break out of the noise and entertain people as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and what surprises me too is they never used to do previs with action films. They used to sort of just, maybe just rehearse a fight, make up a fight, and then they never filmed it. I guess before digital, it was hard, right, to get a film camera and to edit something. But I'm like, how do they create anything like and make it look good without? Because we spend so many days just working out how we're going to shoot things and the angles, so that we can take a lot of the guesswork out on the day we shoot it and give it to the DOP or the director and go, hey, look, this is a pretty good roadmap. If you want to follow this, you can save yourself a lot of trouble. Um, so yeah, I'm surprised how they did it back in the day, but maybe that's too why action films now are like so much more elaborate and entertaining than they used to be.
What would you say, as far as anything you've done, stunt performing wise, fighting wise, probably the most intricate thing you had to do, whether it was a oneer or whatever? Like, what's probably the most intricate thing you've seen going there? Because I imagine it is performing, right? You're performing for you got a bigger crew and cast around you. What would you say, film or role or whatnot, that it was like a bigger thing for you, and the dynamic of going through that, the prep work, and put us in your shoes basically.
Look, honestly, looking back at MK1, that fight scene I did as Cabal was really challenging. I couldn't, the fact that I couldn't really see during that whole fight, and I was still pretty green back then as far as stunts go. So I think when you are green, you just go, well, I guess this is just what it's like. But since that job, I really haven't had anything as difficult as performing as Cabal. Like I kind of did that whole movie with my eyes closed, basically. I remember walking up the steps of, up Shao Kahn's throne on that bridge thing, and I couldn't see the steps. And I don't think I could ever express to anyone just how blind I was. The fact that I did anything was amazing in hindsight. Because since then I've done elaborate fight scenes, but I haven't had the restrictions of vision that I had back then. And when you've got hook swords, you've got two hook swords and no vision, and you're trying to land your marks. It's ridiculously hard. Like I've done elaborate fights since with weapons and all that, and it's just been so much more manageable because if you can see what you're doing, it's like
Yeah.
it's amazing. You get how much easier it is to hit a mark when you can see the mark. But I was so early on in my career, I was just like, oh, I guess this is why I'm getting paid, like what I'm getting paid, right? I've just got to do this, and it is true for the most part. But yeah, it was hard looking back. I got to do a nice, like elaborate fight scene for. Actually, I probably shouldn't say because no trailer's released. But for a big actor, I got to do a cool, elaborate sword fight coming up in a movie.
Okay.
Maybe a trailer will release soon, but I probably
Is that
shouldn't
the
say.
mosquito bowl?
No, no, not the Mosquito Bowl. That was a World War II movie, so
Oh,
not too many fights in that. There were some. That was with Peter Berg. who directed like American Primeval. A lot of people know him from. But he, Peter will design action for Peter, and on the day he'll say, "Ah, no need to design anything. You just run at him and fight on the ground." So we're just like, okay, well, I'm glad we spent all those months designing this action for you. Um,
Old
but
school, yeah.
yeah, old school. But you got that real, the actors just went for it, and
Well,
they're still safe, and they didn't. They still pulled their punches.
well, that's method acting at that point.
Yeah, 100% was like we were on the sidelines watching it, going, "Holy crap!" Like, look at them go for it. So
This
that'll be
is
I think
real.
that'll be a cool film if people haven't heard of it. The Mosquito Bowl. There's a book about a real life telling of footballers who went to the Pacific to fight the Japanese and played a historic football game. And half the players who played in that game died soon after in the Battle of Okinawa. So
That's
it's gonna be yeah, a heartfelt World War II movie.
oh, that sounds amazing already. It's also interesting going from Peter Berg's more method stunt work to like really involve like previs or just pre-planning in general to what's it like being on. I think you were involved in the Avatar Fire and Ash film. I mean, when you're filming it, it's got to be completely night and day different than obviously what we see at the end with all the effects. What is? Can you
Yeah,
juxtapose that?
it is, and to be honest, I didn't love my experience filming because you are just surrounded by blue screen and you can't see the action. You can't see who you're fighting. I had a very small stint on Avatar, so just went over for about 3 days filming, and wasn't really involved in a huge action sequence. Well, at least I don't think so. I haven't actually seen the movie, so but
Okay.
yeah, so I can't elaborate too much on Avatar because I didn't have too much to do. But I do find when you are in that alien world where everything's CGI, it's not quite as exciting as being in, say, a World War II movie where everything you see is in front of you and you're reacting to real box bombs that the special effects guys have put down. That's filmmaking. That's like such an amazing experience. You feel like you're in the war. You're just in the dirt and going for it and yelling and screaming, and it's why I think a lot of people got into stunts in the first place because they want to be a part of a sequence like that, not sort of go into a studio where there's blue walls all around you and imagine there's a blue alien in front of you.
Right. I mean, I know like Mandalorian and a lot of other even Marvel films, they're starting to use more the screen.
Yeah,
So it's just at least something to react to, and it has to really play, whether it's stunt performing or being the actor or what. It's got to really impact your performance, I would imagine.
totally. I just think I'm not opposed to like a blue screen or like the walls when they sort of fill the world within them with stuff. But
Yeah.
when there's absolutely nothing, or I guess it's like motion capture. Like I don't love doing motion capture because you can't see anything. You're in these suits with bubbles like on attached to you, and you can't. It's not filmmaking. You're not there in a set that the art department has spent 2 months building. And I loved walking into these studios when they've built a castle or built like a village, and you're like, holy crap! Like they've built this just for this scene, and they're going to tear it down next week. I think that's really amazing. But beggars can't be choosers, and you got to take this CGI job sometimes. But I'm sure Mandalorian and all that, like Thor: Love and Thunder, they had the blue screen and the volume too. But then within that was like a lot of stuff like trenches and that you could kind of react to, and other people.
And you don't know until you're trying to perform in the middle of it either. So
Yeah,
it's a totally different thing. And I see you have a really good background too. So you got some good. You got some collection behind you there?
yeah. I was like trying to work out where I was going to point the camera today. I'm like, I'll just point at my nerd shelf. So it's just my
Yeah, let's
my
do it.
my comics. So there's my full Invincible comic series that
Oh, I
I've
love
had.
that series.
Yeah, so I've had that for I think like 13 years. I think well before the series came out. Why the Last Man? That's a good one about the last man on Earth in a world full of women. There's a couple of crew drink bottles. So that's Thor: Love and Thunder, and that's Mortal Kombat. Natalie Portman, Queen Amidala. Everyone likes her. That's around my age. And yeah, all my Blu-ray and PlayStation 4 collection. Um, I'd really fight to get all this stuff out. My wife was like, "No, it's not, you're not putting that in the house," because I don't have a man cave, so I have a tiny little bookshelf in the living room that kind of faces away from everyone. That I have, yeah.
It's the
And
man's shelf. There you go.
this is a patch my friend Don made for me. So
Oh,
it's
that's
a
awesome.
Cabal Mortal Kombat patch. He made me a few of those, which is really nice of him. So you
That's
stick it
awesome.
on
And
your.
obviously, being a fan, of course, and that's why I brought up the background there. Being a fan and nerding out a little bit, and then going from like working at the theme park as Batman or whatnot, and then getting into the films where you're doing a bunch of different superhero stuff and action stuff. I mean, just the kid. If you talk to the kid, decades ago. I mean, it's pretty surreal. I mean, what's your outlook on that as like basically you grew up into be the superhero yourself, basically?
Totally. I think if I told myself that I would be doing a job that I loved, like dressing up and doing stunts, I wouldn't have believed it. And I think I was always really worried that I was going to end up in a job that I didn't enjoy. Out of school, I was a bricklayer and a kitchen joiner, and then worked in hospitality for years. So to really find myself in something I enjoy, where I do get to play these larger than life characters and these superheroes, it's amazing. Sometimes you've just got to stop and remind yourself though too, because when you do it quite often, you can forget that what you're doing is actually quite special. And I do think it's funny though, because for all the film roles and characters I've played, everyone always gravitates to being theme park Batman. They're like, "Yeah, but you were Batman at Movie World." I was like, "I've done some cool stuff than that. Come on, like." But yeah, to them
Nothing
it's
cooler
like
to be
that's
Batman,
yeah, that's the pinnacle, right? Theme park Batman on $26 an hour.
Well, let me ask you this too. As we're kind of closing in on the end here, because you have unique perspective going through this, and also on this is a filmmaker talking to filmmakers. So the concepts going into is like whether it's someone that just starting out in the film industry, whether it's as a stunt performer, we could take it more from things you spent the most time on: stunt performer, fight choreographer, acting, things like that. Also, doing your short films. What are some advice you can go into to give people some levity, and even like how to. I feel like a lot of people get like, okay, I'll do a little this, I'll do a little that. I feel like a lot of people kind of miss like, no, you gotta be focused on this path. So, how can you help these guys get some sort of advice and tips on preventing pitfalls and whatnot, being on your goal?
I guess for me, I can only really speak for stunts because that's something that I have made a living doing. The one thing so I run a stunt school, and the one thing I tell my students is you need to be regularly training, because if you're just waiting for work and you're not conditioning and working on your skills, when you get the job, you're going to fail. So you need to be regularly going over the basics. I wouldn't worry too much about doing flashy stuff. It's like if you can get really good at a back break fall, or really good at throwing a right punch, that's going to get you, I think, like 80% of the way, and I think the other thing, so train a lot, train hard, train your basics, be conditioned, be ready. But I think the other thing you need to be doing is you need to be making your own films. If you're not watching yourself in front of camera and watching your performance, you can't have the first time you perform to be on a Hollywood movie, because you're not going to be good unless you're an absolute natural and you just get it. There are people like that, but a lot of the time you need to cut your teeth making your own films, make the mistakes doing the YouTube videos that then you look back on in 10 years ago, oh, that was terrible. And at the time I thought I was all right. But you need to, there's a performance that you just get over the years. You learn to bring a sort of energy within and an intensity within a performance. And it takes a while to understand. I really got it from watching people better than me on set and going, "Ah, that's what it is." But the more you do it, you can get that by making your own films. So get a group of people together, hold an iPhone or whatever you need, like a cheap DSLR, and just film stuff and just do it regularly. Don't bite off more than you chew. Make it short, a 1 minute fight film or a 1 minute with a narrative. That was fun. That only took us 2 hours. Okay, let's do it again next week. I think the pitfall some people can fall into is they want the first one, they try to make it too elaborate and it takes too long and people sort of get bored and fall by the wayside because it's taking 5 days to film. And then by the time you finally finish the edit, you're like, that was exhausting. I don't want to do that for a while. So I think just
Yeah.
stick to like the little 1 minute clips, do that for a while, and then you go, you know what, I've done 10 of these. I feel like I could now do a 5 minute film or a 10 minute film.
That's amazing takeaway because I talk a lot of these different filmmaker meetups and festivals and things like that, and you talk to these other film or even online, and you talk to these filmmakers, and we all experience it. I love what you said there, just like do like a 1 minute thing. You want to be well thought out, but like don't overthink. It's not. Don't make it too precious. Like it's got to be this perfect. No, just don't do a bunch of slop, but just keep working at. I love that. That's an amazing takeaway.
Was it's just what I've and come from personal experience, what I've found because I think I was more about when I was younger, like, oh, I want to make a these big films. Like Greymare was an 18-minute film, and it was like the third or fourth thing I ever made. Like, but then as I got older, I'm like, no, I'm going to focus on making these 1 to 2 minute films, and I had more fun. I edited them in like 1 or 2 nights, opposed to like weeks, and I had something to show for it. And then I was felt like I could go out and do it again the following week. And I just think that's the method that I personally has worked for me. And I try to tell people, I'm like, just you've got to get out and do it. What are you waiting for? Do you have? It's hard if you have a family at home and you're trying to you're trying to earn money. You're trying to be a dad or a mum, and and then you have these goals. Like I try to make time for it and I do, but it might be to my detriment of my relationship. But when I look back and I was single or at least just had a girlfriend and didn't have kids that relied on me, and I didn't have to earn as much money to support a family, I wish I had just done so much more. Like I really didn't I took for granted how much time I had.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good
you
one.
know like
Yeah.
yeah, I'm 37 now, so I guess I still got I'm still young but you got these kids in their early 20s that I guess I mentor and train, and I'm like, you guys, once a month is not enough. You got to just you're only young once. Go out and do it. Just film, 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 and you're gonna get better by doing. Don't worry about going to uni, go to film school. Just film. Look, that's the beauty of it. You can see it all on YouTube. You can see how to do things, and you'll work out too. Like I'm filming a Matrix short film at the moment, right? And we're out
Oh,
at night,
okay.
and yeah, and and even things like I'll edit as we're filming, and then we'll film like next we're filming this tonight, we're filming tomorrow night. But as I'm editing, I'm like, I wish the light was slightly behind them so that they're not looking so flat in the image. But I have to learn that by doing it and seeing my mistake.
You touched on this a little bit too. Is I feel like some people have a stop too, where it's got to be like this higher end camera, and we need the higher end lighting. And it's like if you can afford that, rent it or buy it, fine. But like you said, like just take out your smartphone and get some basic lighting, and just like you said there, you don't learn unless if you're. This is a very practical art, man. Like you have to go
Mhm.
out there and you gotta film. And like that's a great thing there. Like how do I add more depth to this? Okay, I could do the
Yeah.
lighting behind them. I can. Yeah, that's an amazing takeaway as well.
Yeah, you have to make the mistakes. You have to get in the edit suite when you're all said and it's done. You've filmed it, and you're not going to go out there again. And you get in the edit suite, and you're like, "Ah, man, I wish we did this differently," or "Oh, I should have cut to a different angle here because I cut to the same angle, and now the edit doesn't work." Little things like that you need. You're not going to. Someone could tell you, but you're not going to remember that unless you actually do it and make that mistake for yourself. So yeah, just people go out and film. I did my Grey Man film on my Canon 80D, which is, it's not a great camera. It's not a good low light camera, but and I could have used my friends who had like better cameras, but I was like, you know what, I just want to go out and shoot, and I want to hold the camera myself, and I don't want to feel responsible for holding their $6,000 camera. I
Yeah.
just like, I'll go use my DSLR. I'll try and light it as best as possible, and I just didn't want to go, oh, but I don't have the right camera and I don't have the right overhead LED light on a crane. So this kind of, I was like, fuck it, let's just go do it. And,
Yeah.
you know, and it was fun and I had a ball and some of my fondest experiences filmmaking is the films that I've made, not necessarily the big Hollywood films I've been on.
Yeah, 1,000%. Is there any place we could direct people to? I mean, you said it's on YouTube, your short films.
Yeah, I just throw a lot of my short films on YouTube, so that's probably the best place to view them. If you look up Daniel Nelson, hopefully you'll come across my page. Sometimes write Daniel Nelson it's Stunts, and that'll probably bring it up. I don't know my exact username. Probably should get get that under control. But yeah, look up Daniel Nelson Stunts. My page will come up, and then you can check out some of my films. I really only post like kind of action short films on my YouTube. I just did one recently last week. I did an Attack on Titan, a little short film working on my
Oh, really?
VFX. So had a friend of mine tried to upscale him and make him massive, and did some cool little VFX there. So it's not perfect, but the same thing. Like I'm not going to get better at VFX unless I actually practice with footage that I'm out doing.
Right.
So that's why I do it. And a VFX artist who is good might watch it and go, "Oh, I could see how he could have made that better," or "That's janky." But I don't care. I'm just like, no, well, this is how I'm getting better. Like, go back
Yeah.
3 videos prior and watch the VFX on that one. That was even worse. But I'm just like, I really don't care about people's opinions though, because I just like, put it up, and I know that I'm improving. So yeah,
That's the key thing too. Even from I remember when I did my short film, from the beginning of the film, as much pre-planning as we did going into it. I always call it like a series of healthy compromises, right? Well, we need a film in the city, but we can't run and gun it and get permits in time. Okay, we're gonna switch it to like his bedrooms. He lives with his parents. We'll do it at my house. You know, you
yeah,
just like
yeah,
just make the fucking movie.
yeah,
Tell
totally.
your story.
Yeah, or just or accept that. All right, well, we might get kicked out, but we might get kicked out of this alleyway. But if we don't, then we've nailed it and we've got this cool location. Like
Yeah,
we're an alley I'm shooting in is an alley that's appeared in like actual feature films before, but I kind of know some of the good locations, and I'm like, let's just shoot it there. They've got good depth, good you know, good walls and aircon vents and pipes and cobblestones and stuff. That all those things, like that's art department, right? So, but it's free if you
yeah,
find a good location. So you just I think that's a big thing too, is understanding that a set, what it looks like, can really make the film feel high scale. If you find the
yeah,
right location.
yeah. It's huge, and you can't develop. I know a lot of people. I use the term your voice. You can't really develop that unless you make a lot. And I'm like, okay, next one I do this, but you never get to get those thoughts and
Hmm.
design and block better and camera movement better, and unless you do a lot. I interviewed
Do you,
a guy named Robert Dalva. He worked on the original Star Wars movie, and he worked on I think he did a lot of editing, but he also directed Black Beauty 2. He's done a lot of stuff, and that was one of his biggest takeaways. Just shoot a lot of like micro short films, I guess is the term nowadays, right? Micro
yeah.
short films as much as you can. But now we had the benefit of it could be a simple camera, it could be the phone, it could be doesn't. And I get what you're saying too, brother. When you got like the $6,000 camera, I'm like, yeah, I'm worried about this, but I'm also like, my mind's on that too.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's starting to sprinkle, and I'm like worried about getting this thing wet. Whereas like when it's just my camera, I'm like, who cares? Just keep shooting. If it dies, it dies. you know. Um, do you
Yeah,
so do you find like through filming, you've created a style of filming yourself? Like you have a way of you have a certain shots that you like to keep bringing up. I know like Tarantino loves feet shots, etc. So do you have
yeah.
something like that yourself?
I'm more of a foot guy myself. No,
Yeah.
It might have been originally a Da Vinci thing, but like product projects, films, they're never finished. They're abandoned because you always want to like tinker more at some point, right? You got
Yeah.
a cutoff. But yeah, to answer your question there, like I feel even from the beginning process to the end, I'm like, oh, I was shooting way better choices here, way better setups. No matter, I planned everything ahead of time, and I learned like, I think Robert Rodriguez had that story about the two groups that did pottery. Did you hear about that? Where it's like this group had to do like only this much, and they can only do one take and make it perfect as possible. In this group, as many takes as you want. You're promoted to do as much as you want, get more clay and everything. And when it was done, this group over here, seeking perfection, it looked good. But you see, like all these guys would do like five pottery pieces each, look like crap, look like crap. Ooh, this looks really good. And it's a numbers game, and so I think you got to get your reps in. And I felt like that towards the end. So this was a psychological thriller. So how to pacing, and I did everything. Like the sound design. I did the musical score. I went more like a tonal score. But finding my own voice, it's not there yet. But I go, you know what? This movie it's for a first movie. It's fucking great. I think. But like I go, this is not the filmmaker I want to be. I know that, and I haven't figured that out yet. And that gets me excited to do the next one and the next one. And so
Yeah.
I'm loving the process.
Nice. Good on you. Well, yeah, that's the only way to do it is to keep making them, and then you'll eventually, you'll work out how you like your films to look, and the choices you can make. Have that control. But then I guess when you then you go too far up the scale and you're directing, and then it's someone else's choice, right? As a DOP, and you kind of have less
Right.
say, and so that's what I think the beauty is. And when you're making these indie films or what, you get complete control if you're the one producing it, if you're the one you're getting everyone along and telling them what to do. You have that final say, and you go, I know you want to do this shot, but this is the reason I want to do this, so this is what we're doing.
I think that's what gives it merit. Gives it that's the award. It's like I had this idea, and you right. You do you feel that with your projects? You do quite a few. Like you just had this thing. This sounds like a good idea, but this one keeps gnawing at my brain. This one keeps popping up and just this seems like I should do this one, but like this one, it
Yeah.
just is the winner.
Yeah, I think you'll always go with your gut. You'll go,
Yeah.
nah, this is what I'm feeling like. I'm such a visual, like I can visualize what I want it to look like. I don't know if everyone can do that, but I was always a good artist, so I could always think something in my head and draw it. And I feel like that in a way has lent itself to visualizing the way I want a film to look, and I can see how I can see the edit in my head. Yeah, so I think that's what I have going for me. I don't know if my films are any good or not, but I know when I'm making it, at least I can draw upon these images in my head to go, this is what I see. And it is hard too, like the Matrix film I'm doing, I'm not holding camera. I'm just solely I'm directing and performing. I'm playing an agent in the Aviators.
Oh, cool.
So it's hard when you have someone on camera, because I can visualize something, but he'll be maybe like a meter further back and a meter this way, and he'll frame up the person, say maybe in the middle, and I'm like, oh, can you just put him a little bit more on the edge, because I want to see more of the background here, and you're having to make those things. But I've found too, by handballing the camera, I can focus more on the performance, and a lot more. I get to see a lot more when I'm not holding the camera. When I'm holding the camera, although I do enjoy doing it, I'm focusing. Well, I'm literally
Oh, right.
focusing on the focus, pulling and stuff, and sometimes I miss some of the performance. So yes, try not to wear too many hats, but then again, try not to have too many people on set when you're doing indie filmmaking, right?
When I did mine, it was literally me and like one other buddy, and then we luckily I found this thing backstage.com, and there's a bunch of seasoned actors on there, so we are able to get people have experience in that. I thought we are just gonna get a bunch of buddies, so it's pretty much me and a buddy, and I was like a fucking DJ. Like I got the camera, I'm pulling focus, I'm directing. So
Yeah,
I just didn't want anything to be an excuse not to film, and I felt like
yeah,
I the people I meet the most, it's like sometimes right. It's more often you find people have all these great ideas, but the execution, I feel like that's the magic. You got to connect those two.
You got to execute. So it's, those people that have the ideas and never execute are the ones that sit back and go, oh, that looks a bit funny in your film and this and that. I'm like, well, how many films have you made? Like, it's all well and good. You sit back and go, I can see that didn't work out so well. It's like, I've got buddies like that like always have a script going and always have an idea, but have never actually produced anything themselves. And then we'll be like, oh, that looks a bit funny there. I'm just like, you have no idea that the stress I went through to just get this thing made, right? Like organizing all you guys, complaining, going, oh, I can't stay up too late because I got work the next day, and I'm trying to organize 8 people and the cameraman and make sure everyone brings the right costumes and the location and then it's just funny. People that never actually do it themselves don't quite understand the difficulty of getting something completed.
Yeah, you're basically mobilizing all these people that have conflicting schedules maybe, and you're like also the visionary, because not everybody people see. I like, even the guy I worked with, we got done with this, like, we did this party scene. We had like 5 people interacting, which for us was like a lot of interaction. And we get done with that, and he's like, I didn't know really what you were going for there, like on the set, because he was doing the microphone for me that day, and now I see it. I get it. You had a vision. I'm like, yeah, but it's, like you said, there's just so much.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like I had actors turn up, and they had no idea what they were doing. Like I hadn't had time, because everyone's a little bit late, and I'm like, okay, so sweet, you guys got to walk to there, and they, oh, so, but doesn't she need to be here? I'm like, no, that's down the track, so don't worry about that. But sometimes you just don't have time to sit everyone down and go, this is what we're doing, because I don't write a script for all my films. I just do the storyboards, and I know what it's, and I know in my head what it's going to do, but I don't actually sit down and always write a script on final draft. Mm-hmm. I can remember in my head, and I think storyboards for me are more handy than a script.
Oh yeah, and you had that pre going into it plan, and also there's a certain degree of course, and there's a little magic here is on set. Yeah, like you said, like, hey, they have the actor over here a bit, or so I can see the background more. Like on set, there's a lot of magic that happens there. And I remember heard I'm not sure if you ever saw this. It was a YouTube clip that was going around like crazy for a while, and it was Jimmy Stewart back in, I want to say maybe the 70s or something. But he was on the stage, and there's talking to a crowd and Q&A, and he made a lot of classics. And someone asked him a question about that, and he says, what we're trying to do, whether it's through the script, the storytelling, is we're trying to create moments. And, nowadays maybe we'll call it like a beat or whatever, but we're trying to create moments. And sometimes you can't predestine that. Sometimes that just pops up, and then you're in the streets and people are like, spouting out some quote or whatnot. But I think that's an interesting fact going into is, you're trying to create these beats and moments like when you're doing your fight choreography and stunt work as well.
And that, I think too, that sometimes in your casting, getting the right creative people who are willing to take risks or come up with something on the spot that you hadn't thought of and just do it. And you're like, oh, I actually really liked that. That was, great. But if sometimes you gotta get those creative people who can take those risks and just do it and not ask necessarily myself for permission, and then I'll go, I like how you did that. That's how we're going to do it from now on. So finding the right little team, I guess, and then like trying to work with that team more and more, so that you all come up together. If you cycle through people too much, you're going to always, I guess, have a wishy-washy sort of group of people. But find your little group and try to stick together and keep creating.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Methods of Fiction. To hear more insights from filmmaking and entertainment industry professionals, subscribe to our video podcast on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to follow us there as well. We look forward to having you join us again on the next episode.